Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and I have a not so mini album to show you using a Mother's Love paper collection from Country Craft Creations. This was a 12 by 12 paper pad with a vintage sewing theme. This was really fun to use and to make a mini album out of. It is 6.5 by 10 with a 3-inch spine, and you'll probably notice there is some sewing elements already on the cover, just to give you a peek of what's going to be inside. So let me take you through a little bit about what I did on the cover, then we'll take you through the pages, and there's going to be a separate video with the tutorial on how I made this. So all of the products that I used from Country Craft Creations will be listed in the description box below. Don't forget to check them out. They're a fabulous company to order from. So let me just zoom in a little bit and show you some of the fun stuff right here. All right, so starting over here, so I did add some things from my stash. These keys, there's the other one. These keys have been in my stash for such a long time. And then I have a couple of other metal embellishments. The buttons came from Country Craft Creations. I know the brown ones did. I don't know which collection these ones came from. All these flowers I made myself using a set of dies to make flowers. It's not the one that Country Craft Creations has, but I'm going to link the ones that Country Craft Creations sells to make dies that make fabulous flowers. That's what I'm trying to say. I also added some pearls from my stash, just a little bit of embroidered flowers from my stash. This was from a die that I had in my stash, these, and so were the leaves. But, oh, you also can see there's some of the measuring tape that I just sort of accordion folded and glued here and there, just to add that in as an element. I had a die that makes a lace border, and you'll see a lot of that inside, but I accordion folded it and then tucked it in places. This little twine card was part of the elements on the tag page, and I just cut it out and added some twine from my stash around it, and I just like the look of that. I had this metal corner in my stash. I've had that for a long time. The kitty cat was part of the paper collection. He was cut apart, and this actually can come out and you can add a photo in there if you'd like, but I really like the kitty. I've had this frame in my stash. It's a resin frame, and I don't know if you can see it that much, but I took my ink dauber and just a mixture of inks that I had and just colored it to match the melon color, and then there actually is some blue in some of the indentations, just so it all would flow together. And then up here at the top, as you see, there's another one of the metal corners. There's another one, pieces of tape. I actually ripped it in half and tucked it in here and tucked it here. That's part of that die cut, and it just added some nice balance to it, and more flowers that I made just from scraps left over once I was done with all of the paper. This is a thread spool top that was a fussy cut from the paper collection, and some more of the beads. I had this lace. It's antique lace that has been in my stash for a while. So that is what is inside, or on the outside, of the mini album. Now let me take you inside and show you a little bit of the mini album. So the inside front cover just has a pocket. Now this is the die that I was telling you about. It just cuts border. I'm not sure who makes it. It's been in my stash for a while. But any die or edge punch would work, or just leave it plain and you still are going to get a lot of the effects. This is a snippet of some trim I had in my stash. Love the graphics here. The kittens in the basket with yarn coming out, and there's scissors, there's some yarn, and a spool of thread. And there, of course, is that kitty cat that's on the front. So I used some olive color artisan cardstock. There are many colors you could use for this. You could use black, you could use brown, you could use burgundy would work real well too. There were some touches of green, and so I felt that it worked really well with the colors of the paper. Love this little picture of the mom little mouse with the 3 little baby. I mean, that's adorable. And then there's the back of it. And I did use a stub and scallop punch for the corners of some of these cut-aparts that I put in here. So this is from that same die set. It's just one of the different dies that were there. This page is held in with a magnet. And here's one of the spool ends that's in the collection. It's just glued on the top, so you can use that as a tuck spot. Here's another one of the elements that was in the collection, this spool of thread. And I have that glued just on the bottom, so that makes a fabulous tuck spot as well. And these 3 tags were part of the tag sheet that I just fussy cut and inked around the edges and just have sticking in there just to add some interest. But instead of those, you could put a photo there. A 5x7 photo would look fabulous on this page, or you could have a couple of 4x6s just cut down just a little bit, because this page is 6 inches wide. All right, we'll go to the next page. And this one is another pocket page. So I've got the back of it has coats, needles, and thread number. And I love these flowers. It's a very vintage look. Here's just a piece of scrap that was left that would make a good photo mat. And as you can see, I do have a little bit of that pattern on the bottom. This will open up. You could put a 4x6 photo there, a 4x4 photo, and then that can just sit right in there and just add some interest. I love the texture of that. Now on this page we've got, this is another one of the tags that was in that tag sheet, and it holds a magnet inside it, so this will open up and that will open up. And we've got this adorable vintage picture with a little girl with holding some thread spools and the rabbits jumping over it. It's just adorable. This is open here, so you could tuck something into the side. But I think that page came out really nice, and that closes like this. But this page does have a photo mat. Now if you wanted to, you could take a photo and just center it on that page, and that will look like a great composition. So that'll go back into the top loading page. So this next page has it's got a waterfall, and it's got this great page of vintage sewing machines and plans for the sewing machine on it. So it's held down with a magnet. So there's a place for a photo, and one there, there, and there. And then there's room to put another photo here. And as well, this has a side loading pocket with room for a 4x6 photo on each side. So that will go back there and stay nice and tight. So this has a flap that goes up to the top, and there's lots of rooms to put photos on that page. And it does have a little spot for a tuck spot. I took one of the pages that had the measuring tape on it, tore it at the top, added a little bit of ink, and just smushed it a little, technical term. I added that die cut from the border die. Here on the edge, I actually had two of them together. I took some buttons from my stash and I sewed them onto this lace and then glued that down just to add something a little different. And as I said, you could use that as a tuck spot. And then you have the room inside for more photos. So that page will go like that. So here I have some, I call them opposing belly bands. This belly band is going to go up and down, and there's room for some large photo mats inside. This is just a piece of the paper that I inked around the edges, but this piece of newspaper is actually on some of the olive green cardstock and will make a good spot for photos. And that will go right in there, nice and safe and sound. These were cut aparts from, there was one whole page that had these, I think they were 3 by 3 inch cut aparts. And I did use the stub and scallop punch to put that on. Now this belly band actually opens up. I have magnets to keep it closed. And I have an assortment of things. A lot of it was just a little, I didn't have very much paper left over, but I took the larger pieces that had some really neat decorative elements and just cut them out and left them in here in case whoever gets the book wants to do something else with it. There's a little folder I made. And then this I did back on some cardstock. This picture I just inked around the edges after I cut with a scallop punch. Isn't she adorable? And put that in there. I had just a little clip I added in there, and that will all stay closed like that. And this again is the top loading pocket. So imagine if you had a photo like that. You could put that on there. Doesn't it look fabulous? I mean, it's an adorable picture, so of course it does. But that can go in like that, and the photo mat will go right down in there. I only have the 2 top loading pockets. You could make the pages like that. I decided not to do a lot of hidden pockets in this case. Just wanted it to be pretty straightforward. Okay, and now we have some corner pockets on both of these pages. I did take some of the trim that came from Country Craft Creations and I tea dyed it. And it's interesting, I actually used, I think it was a mango tea that I had, and it added a little pinkish tinge to it, which was perfect to go with this paper. I had some flowers in my stash. Here's the buttons. And I had this die that had like berries, and I inked it with a melon color and then used a pearl embossing powder, and it just added, you probably don't see the sheen to it, but it just adds another texture to the whole thing. There's a piece of trim underneath here, and as well this, it looks like a little flower. It's this trim. I just accordion folded 3 pieces together and glued it at the bottom. I pinched the bottom. But it has nice pocket to add loose photos or memorabilia. And I do have a couple of elements already in the pockets. And the same on this page, exactly made the same way with the flowers, buttons, the embossed die cuts. And here's an adorable picture that's there. A photo mat. Another photo mat. This has a cute girl trying to stand on a chair and telephone. And this was just a snippet of paper, just a little scrap that I had left, and I took some buttons and sewed them on the paper as if this is an old-fashioned button card. And I just like the texture that that brings to that whole composition. On the last page, I have a flap that opens up to the left. It's a mom watching a kid dangle the string in front of the kitty cats. And this has a magnet in it to keep this closed. And the purpose of this flap, you could obviously add photos to, but if you had any loose memorabilia, you could just put it in here, close all this up, and it's going to stay in your book nice and tight. And if you have more photos, you can add them into this, which, I mean, can you see how big that flap is? So you could put photos on there. Love the kitties playing the drum that's made of a thread spool. So there's a photo mat, and this was a folder from some of the leftover scraps. And by the time I finished this, I didn't have any paper of real size left over. I don't think anything bigger than 3 inches. So it was good use of the paper. I had enough to go around. I was able to cut out all the elements I wanted to cut out and add it to the paper. And yeah, so I used one collection kit, and I still have maybe 5 pieces of olive artisan cardstock left over. So get yourself one collection kit and 1 pack of the artisan cardstock in olive, the 12 by 12, and 12 by 12 paper as well. This flower was made with the artisan cardstock. I want to zoom in on it if I can. Maybe even a little more. Just because it's, again, a flower made with a die, and it's using the olive green artisan cardstock, but then I added some glitter to it, and it sort of changes the whole texture and tone of the flower, and I like how it went along with everything. I had these little embroidered flowers in my stash, and I just added them underneath that. Added one of those spool ends, and then a couple of flowers that was cut from that olive green cardstock. I could have done a, I call it a library style closure with 2 circles, the circle closure, but I just decided to keep it simple and just have a magnet holding that closed. The back cover, let's go back out, is just one of the papers that has a sewing machine on it, an old-fashioned sewing machine. I just like that a lot, and I wanted to make sure it was seen. Here is our spine. Oops, the light goes a little crazy. And then there we are, back to the front cover with the kitty cats. So as I said, there is a tutorial. There will be a link in the description box once the tutorial is up and running. I just wanted to show you this absolutely gorgeous paper collection. And again, this was called A Mother's Love, a sewing themed paper collection from Country Craft Creations. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I hope you like this. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and I appreciate it. And introduce yourself in the comments if you do that. So thanks again for watching. Have a fabulous day.